Hello, everyone. I'm Mandi Rae of Ecstatic Astrology, and I'm here for OPA, the Organization for Professional Astrology, with Denise Hancock. And you can find Denise at astrologywithdenise.com. I want to go ahead and say that from the beginning. So, how are you today?
Hi, Mandi Rae. I am doing great.
But yeah, thank you so much for joining us. And we're just going to talk a little bit today about astrology and business. And there's so many different facets to this. But Denise, you have a specific thing you want to talk about, and this is writing for the digital reader.
Yes. As you know, Mandi, I am the senior editor of OPA's magazine, The Evolving Astrologer. I've been working on that just over 3 years. And I have a long background of writing in my professional expertise before I was in astrology, but I've learned a whole lot more through this process of editing articles for OPA's magazine. And I'll be giving a presentation at the upcoming AstroBiz conference about writing for the digital reader specifically.
Oh, so wonderful. And if you haven't checked out the Evolving Astrologer, which I love to call T, have you gotten the T yet? Then please do. You can go to our astrology page, opaastrology.org, to find that. And there's a digital version you can read. And also, being a member gets you really, I believe is it prior access or it's full access? Or is it
We're
just
actually
free?
open access now to everyone.
Good to know.
Yeah, for the last couple of years, we just decided to make it widely available. So anyone who goes to the website can fully see both the current issue and our past archive.
And you can get a physical copy, which I have a ton of. I
Mhm.
love this magazine. The artwork's always beautiful, so it's a great publication. So you were going to share a little bit with people about some tips you have for writing for the digital reader.
Yeah, I'd love to. I put a few things together for us today. So what I'd like you to do is just think for a minute about the last time you opened up a web page or a social media post, whether it's on your phone or on your laptop, and how long did you actually give it before you decided to either keep reading or scroll past? Well, so research shows that the average person gives something 8 seconds, just about as long as it takes to say Mercury is in retrograde. So if we're trying to reach people, whether it's through an article, a blog post, a newsletter, social media, we really only have a very short time to capture their attention and bring them to our content. And so I wanted to share with you today three techniques that can help you capture your readers. And I have some examples to show once I explain what the technique is.
Okay.
So the first one, and this dates back from research that was done probably about 20 years ago, is called that most of us read in what we call the F pattern principle. So when we look at a screen, what you essentially do is your eyes scan across the top of the content, like you're forming the letter F, and then it moves down the left side, stopping occasionally with like little branches, right? So it's left to right and then down with just a quick scan. And so they only will stop if something catches their eye. And it's not that we choose to read that way, it's just essentially how our brains have adapted to processing digital information quickly. And so I have just a quick example, if it's okay if I share my screen,
Yes, please.
of a post that gives an example of what that looks like. Here's the first example of what I mean by the F pattern principle. And I'm just going to quickly read this. The nodes of the moon are mathematical points in the natal chart that show the relationship between the sun, moon, earth at the time of your birth. These points have been used by astrologers for centuries, blah, blah, blah. And most people, their attention would already be lost at this point, right? So when you're writing, if you take this F pattern principle into consideration, your writing might look something more like this, where you have a headline that stands out, your lunar nodes, the key to breaking old patterns, and then ready to move beyond, keep them reading. And then start with like something that actually gives them information. The north node shows your growth path forward, blah, blah, blah. So can you see in this quick example how this F pattern principle is much more likely to capture someone's attention on the page?
Oh, yes. I definitely am drawn to that when I'm reading things.
Yeah, me too. I would like to think that I'm not, that I'm more sophisticated, but the reality is I'm just like everyone else. We all have so much content coming at us all the time. So the second example, and I already mentioned this just a little bit, but because we only have 8 seconds and because people see so much information, one of the things you want to do is create trust really quickly. And so within just those few seconds, your online readers need to know that you understand their needs, that you have the expertise to help them, and also that you can communicate complex ideas in a simple way. Because, that's one of clients or even the general person on the street, they talk about astrology as like they have no idea what we're talking about. And we use language that's over their head. And so some astrologers think, hey, I don't want to dumb it down, but don't think of it as dumbing it down. Instead, thinking about like you're front loading what's most relevant to the reader. You want your writing to be focused on your reader. And most of us are not, just providing astrology to other astrologers, right? We want to bring in clients. We want to attract people who don't know astrology. And so you want to bring it to their level and make it relevant to them. So I have another quick example to share here. So I know a lot of us write monthly forecasts. And so here's an example of quick trust building. And so the first one here is the lunar cycle beginning at 15 degrees Taurus conjunct Uranus will catalyze unexpected developments, particularly for fixed signs with planetary placements between 10 and 20 degrees. Now, while other astrologers probably understand that perfectly well, it's not going to get your average digital reader. And so beneath the line, I have a better example that uses both that F pattern principle and also this idea of building trust quickly and making complicated things simple. So it might look like this. May's new moon, expect the unexpected. This month's new moon arrives with a surprise element. If you're a Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, or Aquarius, you're first in line for some exciting changes. For astrology students, this 15-degree Taurus moon, new moon conjuncts Uranus, activating fixed sign placements between 10 and 20 degrees. You see what I did there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially because you throw out something like 15 degrees right at the very beginning, and people who are not familiar, and even some who are extremely familiar, you go into your analytical brain, I feel
Yeah.
like, instead of letting it catch you. I love that.
Well, and most people, again, don't know what fixed signs are. Again, if you're an astrologer, yeah, sure, you know that. But otherwise, they're like, well, what does that mean? So in the first example, you've already kind of sent them to their dictionary or you've made them feel stupid right away instead of capturing their attention and making it relevant to them. I have a second one here. Of course, we all know the eclipses are coming in March, and this is a real simple eclipse example. And again, the solar eclipse at 9 degrees Aries represents a critical degree point that will trigger cardinal sign configurations. A lot of astrologies, right? So beneath that, you see a way to make it a little bit more accessible. Again, using the F pattern principle and saying, here's what this means for you. Yet at the bottom, you actually provide the technical detail, which brings me into the final point that I want to make. And that is one called layering your content. So layering your content is sort of like building a pyramid so that you want to, at the top of your content, have like a base layer, which are accessible insights that everyone can understand. And then the middle layer is deeper explanations for those who want more. And then you also have technical details for like your advanced reader. So you almost think of it as a pyramid that is, upside down. And so here is an example here about retrograde season, right? It's very like we're building on all these, right? We're using the F pattern principle, we're going for quick trust building, and we're using this layering. So here I have the typical astrologies on the top with Mercury retrograde and mutual reception with Mars, while Venus squares the nodal axis. Communication and relationship matters require careful navigation of past karmic patterns. And that's accurate, but most
Mhm.
people aren't going to have a clue, right? So the better way to say it is start with a headline that's eye-catching, navigating the retrograde, communication meets karma, and then use your F pattern. Feel like old relationship patterns are resurfacing? This retrograde period is specifically designed for reviewing and healing past communication wounds. Keys to this period: 1, 2, 3, people love lists. Watch for repeated conversations. Notice what triggers old reactions. Pay attention to coincidental reconnections. And then for your more advanced readers, for the technically minded, you can give the details about what's actually going on.
I love that you caveated for the technically minded because I would look at that as someone who is familiar. Oh, well, that's me. What are they referring to? I love that.
Yeah, a lot of times in my own writing, I'll call it like for the astro geek or for the astro nerd, right? Like here's why I wrote what I did. And I was having a conversation with somebody just a couple of days ago on Threads, social media, and they were saying that one of their wishes, because they read a lot of astrological writing, is that they very much would like it if when people put out a forecast or a horoscope, underneath it, they put why they've said what they said. Are you looking at the transits of Jupiter, Saturn, the nodes, and I thought that was a really, a brilliant observation from someone who's not an astrologer, but they're trying to learn.
Yes. And it is important sometimes to refer to where you got it, because you can say a lot of information and it's almost like backing it up in a way. So, yeah, that makes total sense to me.
Well, and I think it also invites people into a conversation with you and sort of gives you the chance to say, like, here's the general information, here's what I'm looking at. But if you want to know more about how this applies to your chart, contact me and
Mhm.
we can, dive into that or whatever in a personal session or with a written report or however you work.
Yeah. And a lot of what I've noticed you were talking about has been a theme through other mediums. So, public speaking or YouTube videos. It's how to, I guess, distill it into something people can understand that catches their attention, and then dive into the depths of it, later on, and visuals and things of that nature, how important that is. And it's a theme throughout many, many ways because astrology is technical.
Yeah, very technical. And I'm definitely not saying to sensationalize things, right? Or
Sure.
even dumb them down. It's just think about the way you format. You are an expert. How do you show that? But how do you also make it super clear for your reader? I think it was like Albert Einstein who once said, and this could be a wrong citation, that, if you're really an expert, you should be able to explain something to a kindergartner,
Yeah.
right? Should be able to make it that simple. And
Hmm.
so that also, I think, helps to build our businesses. Um, and just gets us the reader numbers and the follower numbers and encourages people to say, hey, like this is a person I can really talk to. So those three techniques I just wanted to give as like a super quick win today. In the full workshop that I'm doing, I'm going to dive much deeper into how to write in a way that connects with all your readers, not just some. We will talk a little bit about AI tools and how to use them in ways that are both effective and also ethical. Um, and how to build trust with inclusive language. And I didn't have time to dive into that today, but I will spend a fair amount of time in April talking about how to be aware of your own biases and what are some common pitfalls I see in astrological writing. Things like socioeconomic blind spots, gender and relationship narratives, and just dogmatic language that we often use. So I hope everyone will find it really helpful.
Yeah, that's a great point. And this summit is April 25th through 27th, and it's
Mhm.
called the AstroBiz Summit. And you can find out more about that on opaastrology.org. But one of the reasons why I think this is so important and so informative is because, and you touched on it, business astrologers, if you are practicing and you are, trying to attract clients, it's a business. And sometimes because it is such a, people want to give with this business, because we've gotten so much out of learning it. But occasionally you get to a point where you're like, well, I have to, pay myself back. I can't just give it all away. Right. So, as far as business and astrology goes, how long have you been practicing?
I offered my first professional consultation in the summer of 2021, right? So this summer will be my fourth year.
And that's a great time to start during all of this,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
astro weather, I guess if you'll call it that. So how have you, I guess, gotten into the business part of it? I'm sure because you came from the writing background that that was a natural way to get into it. But is there anything else you want to share?
I have a long work experience, but really I had never done like a one-to-one service business, and in some ways astrology is, I think, a lot like, being a hairstylist or it's being a therapist, right? It really takes a while to build up a client base if what you're doing, like me, is seeing individual clients. So it started off slow, with like friends and family. And at year 4, I'm finally really at the point where my business has grown every year. And now there's many people who we've had 3 and 4 years of consultations, and they've referred friends to me. I get a fair number of clients through my Google business profile and my website, which I know we're also going to be talking about that at the AstroBiz Summit. Um, so yeah, it's been growing, but it took me a long time to realize that it just takes time to build those client relationships. And social media did not come naturally to me. And I would still say to this day that social media is not really a big driver of new business for me. It's been more about my personal relationships and repeat client business and my Google business profile. But I know we'll hear from people who have different experiences in April. And I'm always looking forward to learning too. I'm really excited to hear from Louise Eddington because she has a profitable Substack newsletter that she's been running, and I've only stuck my toes into Substack. So I'm really excited to learn how that has worked for her and how she's been able to, generate revenue and also attract clients through that.
And there's so many different ways to do it. I mean, social media can be a moneymaker in itself. And then
Hmm.
writing Substack, magazines, there's just so many options. And that's what's beautiful about this summit.
It is.
And I've gotten a little bit of a peek into it just by interviewing everyone for the, kind of the social media push for this to let people know about it. And I did interview Louise, and that's one of the things that I think has started to dawn on me about is when I looked at the schedule, I was like, wow, there's so many different ways and so many different
Yeah.
things. And you don't really know unless you're being presented in a way that you're like, oh, okay, this is one summit. I get to learn about all of these different ways I can do business, different magazines I can write for it. And which, by the way, the Evolutionary Astrologer has open calls for
Mhm.
writing.
Oh yeah,
And
absolutely.
the next deadline's April 25th. I don't want to misspeak,
I believe that's correct because
somewhere around there.
our issues are every quarter at the equinox or the solstice, and so usually 2 months before that is the deadline, right? So if it's coming out in June, then yes, it would be like April 25th. That's right.
Yay.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I got it right, or at least close. So just keep lookout for it on our social media because
Mhm.
it is a really, really neat publication, and it is such an accomplishment to get published, and it gives you a chance to do that. And you're really wonderful to work with as well. So
Oh, thank you. I love doing it. Yeah, it's so fun to help people polish their work and see it come alive on the page.
that's so great. Well, do you have anything else to share before we go?
I can't think of anything. Thank you for talking with me today. And I know so many of you write, and that's one of the reasons I think I love astrologers so much is because they're usually incredibly well read and also very literate. But I do think we have to keep in mind that oftentimes the people that we're trying to reach are not as well read and
Mhm.
not as literate as we are. And so we really have to find our way to using like the most simple language and metaphors and stories in order to reach other people so that they can, get real benefit from astrology, right? Like not just
Mhm.
learn vocabulary, but also be able to apply it to their own lives. And I'm sure that's your goal as well as it is mine.
Yeah.
Yes, I want to make money, but we're also doing this because, we believe that astrology is helpful, right?
Mhm.
And we want to help people.
Yes, it's practicality. And when you can read it on a page that makes sense, it really helps you apply it to
Yeah.
everyday life, which is important. So, what a great tip. I love it.
Thank you. Thank
Well,
you. It was
thank you
great to
for
see you.
joining me. I'll go ahead and give the websites again, opaastrology.org for registration, or if you're interested in becoming a member, which I think is very valuable. We do have lots of offers for our members, like presentations every month that are free. And we have a lot of offerings to the public too, if you're not a member. So just go check out the website. And your website is astrologywithdenise.com. And you can check Denise out in probably several places writing. I'm sure you write everywhere. Do you have a specific thing that you write for?
I spend more of my time editing than writing, to be honest. For the magazine, I do a monthly newsletter forecast to my clients that you can sign up for. It's free on my website. And then I did a fun project around the holidays on Substack, which you can go and read for free if you want to. And there's a link to it on my website. But I don't know if you've ever heard of the 12 Holy Nights ritual. It's something I learned from Melanie Reinhardt. But so for 12 days in a row, I did like this reflective and meditative practice, one day for each zodiac sign. And I brought in card correspondences. So there's a 12-day thing about each zodiac sign if you'd like to just, take a look at some of my more personal reflections.
Yeah, I think I will go read that because it sounds really neat. So, yes, please go check out the Substack and sign up
Thanks.
for Denise's newsletter on her site. So, thank you very much. We will leave you with that and let us know in the comments if you are interested or like anything or have any questions. So, thank you guys. I'm Mandi Rae.